The rain was falling softly that afternoon, painting the hospital yard in a blur of silver light. Lee stood near the window of his office, his white coat slightly crumpled, eyes lost somewhere in the mist beyond the glass. It had been months since he last saw Sam Long, quiet months where he convinced himself that she no longer mattered. But that day, fate decided otherwise. She appeared in the hallway, fragile, her face pale, one hand clutching a small brown envelope to her chest. Her steps were slow but steady, her eyes searching for him with a calmness that almost hid her exhaustion. Lee froze. For a brief second, the world around him faded. The noise of the hospital, the voices, the rain, everything disappeared. There was only her. "Lee," she said softly, her voice trembling like the wings of a tired bird. "I came to return this to you. Your notebook from Cambodia." He hesitated, his lips parting, but no words came out. The sight of her stirred something deep within him, a forgotten ache, a memory of nights when her laughter once filled his heart. But he tried to push it away, tried to stay cold. "You shouldn't have come," he murmured. "You're not well." Sam smiled faintly. "I'm fine," she whispered. But before she could take another breath, her face turned pale, her hand slipped, and the envelope fell from her grasp. Lee caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was weightless in his arms, her skin cold, her breathing shallow. Panic struck through him like lightning. Sam, stay with me," he shouted, his voice breaking with fear he didn't know he still carried. Her eyelids fluttered weakly, her lips moved, forming words he barely caught. "I missed you." Then her body went limp. Lee's heartbeat thundered. For the first time in months, he wasn't the calm doctor, or the disciplined man everyone saw. He was just Lee, a man who realized, in that shattering instant, that no matter how much time had passed, his love for her had never truly gone away. The rain outside grew heavier, but Lee didn't notice. He held her close, his tears mixing with the raindrops that dripped from his hair, and in that trembling silence, with Sam unconscious in his arms, he finally understood. Sometimes love doesn't die, it only waits, quietly, for the moment you are brave enough to feel it again. The sterile scent of the hospital filled the quiet room. The only sound was the faint rhythm of the heart monitor, steady, fragile, like the pulse of a memory refusing to fade. Sam lay on the bed, her face pale against the white pillow, her hair sticking to her temples. Lee sat beside her, his hand still trembling slightly from the rush of fear that had shaken him hours ago. He had seen hundreds of patients collapse before, but none had made his heart stop the way she did. When the doctors rushed in to help, he could barely speak. He just stood there, helpless, afraid she wouldn't wake up. It was then that he realized how deep his feelings still ran, buried under pride, time, and regret. Now, as he sat watching her sleep, the memories returned one by one, her laughter echoing in the rain, her voice whispering his name at dawn. The day he walked away, thinking it was the right thing to do. He had told himself it was over. Yet here she was, still capable of breaking him with a single breath. A faint movement pulled him from his thoughts. Her fingers twitched, her eyelids fluttered open slowly, and her gaze met his. For a second, neither spoke. "Lee," her voice was weak but warm, like a candle flickering after a storm. "I'm here," he said, leaning closer, his voice hoarse. "You fainted. You scared me." Sam tried to smile. "You shouldn't worry. I just overworked a little." Lee shook his head. "Don't say that. You haven't been taking care of yourself." And his voice cracked. He wanted to tell her how terrified he was, how much it hurt to see her like that, but the words stuck in his throat. She looked at him with tired eyes that still held the same quiet kindness. "You haven't changed," she whispered. "Still trying to hide your heart behind silence." He froze. Those words hit him harder than he expected. Silence, yes. That was what had always stood between them. The silence he built to protect himself from love. And the silence that pushed her away. Outside, the rain had stopped, and a pale sunlight crept through the blinds, casting soft lines across her face. Lee reached out, hesitating. then gently brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "Rest now," he murmured. "You're safe." But as she closed her eyes again, he knew the truth. He was the one who had been lost, and holding her hand at that moment. He wasn't sure he could ever let go again. The next morning, the hospital was quiet. Soft light filtered through the thin curtains, and Sam was still sleeping peacefully. Lee sat by her bedside, exhausted but unable to look away. He hadn't left her side all night, afraid that if he did, she might disappear again, like the countless times she slipped away in his dreams. Then, a gentle knock broke the silence. Dr. Min, one of Lee's colleagues, stepped in holding a clipboard. "Lee," he said softly, "can we talk outside for a moment?" Lee followed him into the hallway, his chest tight with unease. Min hesitated for a second before speaking. "We ran a few tests last night. Sam isn't just exhausted. She's 2 months pregnant." The words struck Lee like a wave. Pregnant. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. His hands went cold, his mind spinning. "You're sure?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Yes," Min said gently. "But her condition is weak. She needs rest, emotional stability, and someone to take care of her. Stress could be dangerous." Lee stood there in silence, every heartbeat echoing in his ears. Pregnant. The word carried weight, warmth, and pain all at once. His thoughts scattered flashes of their last night together before he left for Cambodia, her trembling hands clutching his sleeve, the tears she tried to hide. He had thought he was doing the right thing by leaving her behind, protecting her from his dangerous life, but now, it seemed he had only left her to suffer alone. He turned back toward the room. Through the small glass window, he saw Sam slowly waking up. She looked fragile but calm, unaware that the truth had already found him. When he stepped inside, she tried to sit up, but he stopped her gently. "Don't move too much," he whispered. "You need rest." Her eyes searched his face. "What did the doctor say?" Lee hesitated, his throat tightening. He wanted to ask everything. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you endure this alone?" But instead, all he could say was, "You're going to be a mother." Sam froze. Her lips parted, eyes glistening with unspoken fear. You know." He nodded slowly, "Yes." For a long time, there was only silence between them, heavy, fragile, and full of things words couldn't carry. Then, Lee reached out and took her hand in his. His voice was low, trembling. "You should have told me. I had the right to know, and you shouldn't have faced this alone." Tears rolled down her cheeks, one by one. "I didn't know how," she whispered. "You were gone, and I thought, maybe you wouldn't want this." Lee closed his eyes, his heart aching with guilt. Sam," he murmured, his voice breaking, "I never stopped wanting you." Outside, the sunlight poured gently through the rain-streaked windows, a new day dawning, yet filled with the bittersweet ache of love, rediscovered too late. The sun had risen higher now, spilling soft golden light into the small hospital room. Sam leaned back against the pillows, her hands still trembling in Lee's grasp. The scent of morning coffee drifted faintly from the corridor, blending with the crisp smell of disinfectant. It was quiet, too quiet for two people who had once shared so many words, so many dreams. Lee sat there, motionless for a long moment, watching her breathe. Every rise and fall of her chest was a reminder that she was here, alive, carrying a fragile heartbeat within her. His chest ached with emotions he could no longer control: guilt, tenderness, fear, and something deeper than all of them, love. Finally, he broke the silence. Sam. His voice was rough, hesitant, almost trembling. "When I left, I thought I was protecting you. I didn't want you dragged into my world of danger and secrets. But I see now I wasn't protecting you. I was running away from the truth." Sam turned her face slightly, her eyes still moist but calm. "The truth?" she asked softly. "That I love you," Lee said simply. The words escaped him like a confession long buried. "And I never stopped, not a single day." Her lips parted, and her breath caught. She wanted to respond, but emotion choked her words. The tears she had tried to hold back now fell silently onto the white sheets. Lee leaned forward, his hand gently wiping one of her tears away. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For every night you cried alone. For every letter I didn't send. For every moment I made you feel abandoned." He paused, his voice heavy with sincerity. "But I'm here now, and if you let me, I'll stay. Not just for you, but for our child." Sam looked at him, eyes wide, searching his face for any trace of uncertainty. But there was none. Only a deep, quiet determination in his gaze, the kind that could only come from someone who had faced loss and found his reason to fight again. "I don't want promises you can't keep," she murmured. Lee shook his head, his fingers tightening around hers. "This isn't just a promise," he said, his tone firm yet full of warmth. "It's a vow. I'll take care of you both. No more running, no more silence." For the first time in months, Sam smiled. It was faint, fragile, but it reached her Esau smile born from both pain and forgiveness. "Then stay," she said quietly. "Stay, Lee." He bent down and pressed his forehead against her hand. "I will," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I will, no matter what it costs." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the faint sound of life beyond the hospital walls, children laughing, a street vendor calling, the heartbeat of an ordinary day. But for Lee and Sam, it was the sound of a new beginning. As he looked into her eyes, he realized that love wasn't something that disappeared with distance or time. It was something that waited, patient and quiet, until the right moment to bloom again. And in that soft morning light, with her hand in his and their child's future in her heart, Lee knew he had finally come home. There are moments in life when we believe that love has faded, that time and distance have erased every feeling we once held. Yet, as Lee and Sam's story reminds us, true love never truly disappears, only hides behind pain, pride, and the chaos of life, waiting quietly to be rediscovered. When Lee held Sam in his arms as she fainted, something inside him awakened. It was not just fear or guilt, it was the undeniable truth that his heart had never stopped beating for her. This story is not only about two people finding their way back to each other, but also about the power of forgiveness and the courage it takes to face one's own mistakes. Lee had spent months believing that leaving Sam was the right thing to do, thinking that by walking away, he was protecting her from danger. Yet, in trying to protect her, he only created a greater wound: loneliness, misunderstanding, and fear. Life often teaches us this painful truth. Sometimes, love is not about distance or safety, it is about standing together through everything, no matter how uncertain the path may be. Sam, on the other hand, showed quiet strength. Even while carrying the weight of a child and the silence of the man she loved, she never let bitterness consume her. Her patience, her care, and her unwavering heart became symbols of resilience. Through her, we see that love is not about possession, it's about faith. Faith that the one meant for us will eventually find their way back, even if the road takes time.